Raider Nation, what's going on? Coming up here on today's show, I'm going to be doing a mock draft with Kirk Cousins as the Raiders quarterback. Because how many times have we heard it? How many times has it been said out there that the Raiders are not going to be able to trade up for Jayden Daniels, for Caleb Williams, for Drake Maye? I have said it. People have said it. It has been well documented. And I do believe if the Raiders know that they're going to be unable to go out and get one of their top quarterbacks, then what do? You look into free agency, you sign a quarterback, and you go out and you go that way. So to me, the way that I wanted to do today's show is I'm going to run a Raiders mock draft. I already ran it on a simulator, and I'll walk you through every single pick that I made, but I made it with the idea that Cousins is the Raiders quarterback already going into the 2024 NFL Draft. So let's just talk about right now and right now only. To me, these are the Raiders' top needs. Quarterback number 1, defensive tackle at number 2, offensive tackle at 3, corner at 4, offensive guard at 5, center I have here at 6, and I have center there because I do anticipate that Andre James leaves, but if he doesn't, well, then it's not nearly as big of a need, obviously. Running back, tight end, linebacker, safety. With Cousins as the Raiders quarterback, here's how I flip the needs. And I did this just to show y'all how I view the Raiders' needs with and without Kirk Cousins. Defensive tackle, to me, then becomes the Silver and Black's biggest need. You'll also notice then I'm going to put a bigger concentration on the offensive line, and I'm going to put a bigger concentration on making sure Cousins has a little bit of a running game. If you are unaware of what the Raiders' 2024 draft picks are, it has been finalized, and this is what they will officially be for this year's 2024 NFL Draft. You have a pick in every single round and then 3 in the 7th round. Unfortunately, a lot of mock drafts that are out right now, they don't have that 3rd, 7th round pick for the Raiders, which I don't really understand why. So I've had to finagle that final pick. But at the end of the day, this is a very accurate Raiders mock draft in my book. If you want mock drafts every single week at this point, like the closer and closer the draft gets, the more and more mock drafts that you guys are going to get. I like doing them, and it's not just going to be the same thing every time. Like, I'm going to do mocks with Jayden Daniels as the Raiders quarterback. I'm going to do mocks where, Bo Nix probably ends up being the QB. I'll do a mock where maybe we trade out entirely in the first round. Maybe we trade up and pick somebody that's not Jayden Daniels. Or in this case, Kirk Cousins is the quarterback. To me, I want to know what situation the Raiders could potentially in, paint that picture. That way, when we get into that potential situation, you guys can reflect and go back and go, okay, I remember that mock draft that Mitch did. So if you want more Raiders mock drafts, click that subscribe button because this is the time of the year for it. All right, here we go. Let's roll through what the mock was leading up to the 13th overall pick here with the Raiders having Kirk Cousins. So Caleb Williams, he went off the board. Then it was Drake Maye, Olu Fashanu, Marvin Harrison Jr., Joe Alt, Malik Neighbors were the top 6 picks. Coming off the board here at number 7 was Brock Bowers from Georgia. Jayden Daniels fell all the way to 8. I'm going to be real with y'all. If the Raiders sign Kirk Cousins and Jayden Daniels falls this far, if I'm the Raiders, I still try to trade up and go get Jayden Daniels because that value is just too good to be true. For the sake of this mock draft, for the sake of the exercise, I decided to just keep all the picks for the Raiders and not do any trades. Terry and Arnold off the board. Roma Dunze, Latu, and then J.J. McCarthy are all off the board. So here's your opportunity. Imagine that you're the GM, or imagine that you're sitting down next to Antonio Pierce, Tom Telesco. They look at you. They look at you, Abel. They look at you, Justin, Robert Jansen, Sienna, and they go, if Kirk Cousins is our quarterback, who are you going to pick? This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. You're about to get it with the YouTube ad break. Scroll on down and give me your answer. With the 13th pick in my mock draft with Kirk Cousins as my quarterback, the Las Vegas Raiders have selected Talisi Fuaga, the big offensive tackle from Oregon State. This guy has got a lot of playing experience. He's 6'6", 335 pounds, and he's a right tackle. I know Colton Miller is going to be the left tackle. Right now, the Raiders need a right tackle, and obviously, they might re-sign Jermaine Illuminor. He's also a free agent, so I don't know if they do. But I'll tell you this right now, as much as I love my man Jermaine, if you get Talisi, he's going to be one of the best offensive linemen in the NFL. I am telling y'all right now. Here's what PFN had to say on Fuaga. Fuaga's elite power and elite explosive serve as high ceiling traits, but Fuaga is much more refined and much more actionable as a day one NFL starter that he gets credit for. In the run game, Fuaga maximizes his power, competent with sharp angle awareness, urgency, smooth hinge flexibility, and a finisher's mentality. I'll give that one a giggity. On top of that, though, when you think about what Fuaga can also bring to the table, he's a really good athlete from top to bottom. He was also really, really good at the Senior Bowl. The Raiders value the Senior Bowl, and Tom Telesco in round one loves himself a good offensive tackle. So this is why I decided to go with Talisi Fuaga. Let's go to round two now, pick 44 here in this Raiders mock draft, and I have selected Byron Murphy II, defensive tackle from Texas. And I don't really anticipate that Byron's going to fall to the second round, but to me, the number one rule that I have made when I do these mock drafts, like if Murphy would have been available to me in the third round, I don't think I would take him there just because it's not realistic. I don't know if he falls to 44, but if he does, then I'm going to take him because this would be the pick that the Raiders do. Like, there are some people that think that Murphy could be the number one defensive tackle off the board, and I saw a recent Raiders mock draft where he went 13th off the board. Like, if you're able to get this guy out of DeSoto, Texas, which for those that don't know, my fiance, Alex, her family, they live in DeSoto. I know a lot of people in that area. Powerhouse High School. It might be the best high school football in the entire United States. On top of that, I have heard nothing but glowing remarks about this young man, which I don't always have that inside scoop on college football. The fact that I have heard some of the things that I've heard about Murphy, and they've all been good, that is just another thumbs up here of why I would like to get Byron Murphy here in silver and black. So here's what PFN had to say. Murphy's floor is a run defender with his strengths, mass leverage, angle awareness, and movement freedom is already incredibly high. And he has the ceiling to be a devastating pass rushing threat if he can channel his energy and power capacity more efficiently. As a prospect, Murphy bears some similarity to Atlanta Falcons Pro Bowl and second-team All-Pro defensive lineman Grady Jarrett. Tell you what, if we can get ourselves a Grady Jarrett, I am all freaking in. I'm also all in on today's sponsor, Game Time, and if you're looking for last-minute tickets, $20 off with code RaidersChat. Download the Game Time app today. Forget about planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, concerts, baseball, comedy, theater, and a whole lot more. If anybody plans on traveling and you're like, oh, I don't really know what to do in a city, well, guess what? If you don't care what Forbes has to say, you could also care what Game Time has in stock for all of y'all if you're looking for a fun event to do. Like, one of the things that I love to do, if it's like more sporadic, if you will, is events under $50, right? Like, if I can find an event for under $50, it's a cool, like, little date night that I can do with Alex. On top of that, the other reason why I love Game Time and I love a lot of ticketing apps in general is because when you do something like this, it creates a memory. Like, if we all hang out at a baseball game, I'm probably not going to remember the score of that baseball game. I'll tell you that right now. But I know if Senior Steve, Abel, Robert Jansen, Jonathan all show up and we have a few beers, we have a few laughs, like, I'll remember that game 20 years from now. That's the best money that you could ever spend. So download the Game Time app right now. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Just make sure that they know that I sent you. So use promo code RaidersChat for $20 off. Let's go to round three, pick 77. And this has just been a dude that I feel like I can just continuously get. Cedric Van Pran, center from Georgia. And this is a dude that's got a lot, and I mean a lot of playing experience. Hell, if you were to ask somebody who's been the most dominant college football program over the past 3 years, some people might say Michigan. I would say Georgia. Two national championships, and this guy was the center around all of it. Now, I will admit, based on some of the things that I've said in the past where, you know, if Andre James leaves, I believe that Dylan Parham could end up getting kicked to center. Well, what if you're the Raiders and you go, yeah, that was the plan. The plan was to put Dylan Parham at center. But now we got Cedric Van Pran. We could just put him at center and keep Dylan Parham at left guard. Well, now your whole left side is together, and the reason why that's smart is you want to be able to protect and know that the left side of your offensive line with a quarterback like Kirk Cousins that is not mobile at all, coming off a ruptured Achilles, is very well protected. So PFN had this to say on the Georgia center. Cedric Van Pran would have contended with Joe Tippmann, and John Michael Schmitz as the first center off the board in the NFL draft. Van Pran is an excellent mover who possesses an innate ability to pursue the correct angle at the second level while also having the lower body composition and power to be a difference maker at the first level. So let's play a little bit of a game here, right? Let's say this is the Raiders' projected offensive line. And the reason why that you see Greg Van Roten on screen is because I'm a believer if the Raiders have to sign a quarterback like Cousins, who probably gets north of $30 million per year, you're going to have to go cheap at a certain spot. And if Greg Van Roten wants to come back on a one-year deal at, let's say, like $3 million per year, and you roll with this offensive line, Colton Miller, Dylan Parham, Cedric Van Pran, Greg Van Roten, and then Talisi Fuaga, what I want to know right now is, what do you think about this line? I want you to grade it for me. A, B, C, D, or F, because, yes, I would be nervous about starting two rookies with a quarterback that is not mobile like Kirk Cousins. However, I would look at this and I'd say Colton Miller is one of the best left tackles in the NFL. Dylan Parham's got some good years ahead of him. Cedric Van Pran, good years ahead of him. Talisi Fuaga got a lot of good years ahead of him. And if Greg Van Roten is just a stopgap right guard, I like this line a lot. I'd give it a solid B+. Let's go to the next pick here, round 4, 113. My guy Cam Hart was off the board. So I said, all right, who's a player that the tape I start watching on him, I'm just going to be real with you, this might be one of my guys, Marshawn Lloyd. I want to look at each and every one of y'all on the camera right now. If the Raiders decide to move on from Josh Jacobs, or if Jacobs doesn't stay true to his word, because Jacobs sounds like, he said everything like, I want to be a Raider. I've done this song and dance before. If the Raiders don't offer him the money, he's not going to come back to the Raiders. Like, to me, he's not coming back for anything less than $7 million per year. So to me, if you want to pair a running back with Zamir White, based on overall value, this is the guy that I want. Marshawn Lloyd, the more and more tape I watch on him, the more and more I'm like, this is a dude that would excel with Tom Telesco, excel with Antonio Pierce, with Cadillac Carnell Williams. Like, to me, this is starting to turn into the running back I target in round 4. He's 5'9", 210, so he's smaller, but dude is thick, averaging 5.2 yards per carry. He's able to catch. He's able to run between the tackles. He's able to do a lot of things, and he was able to showcase that at USC. So this is what PFN had to say. Transferring from South Carolina, Lloyd quickly established himself as a difference-making ball carrier next to Caleb Williams. He broke out in 2022 with 5.2 yards per carry on a decent offense, but was much more impressive at USC. Lloyd has great speed and choppy feet. His speed can be a catch-22. It helps create big plays and tough tackling angles, allowing him to bounce off tacklers and continue running downfield. But Lloyd is also prone to taking liberty with his running lanes, looking to get outside of the gap and rely on his speed. Still, his explosiveness as a rusher and receiver makes him a valuable playmaker. He could be a starter in the right situation. That situation is the Las Vegas Raiders. Let's go to round 5 now, pick 147, and I'm going to go with Zach Zinter for right guard. Here's another thing. I know that Zinter is not going to be able to play this season. Like, Zinter, unfortunately, broke his fibula, which you hate to see that. However, though, I'm also planning here for the long term, right? Like, the Raiders' offensive line is something that I know Telesco is going to focus on. And Telesco is somebody that throughout his entire GM journey has always focused on making sure that he is winning in the trenches. So even though that I know that Zinter is unlikely to play in 2024 with a broken fibula, he would be the Raiders' starting right guard in 2025. He was a team captain at Michigan. In fact, he was like the team captain on the national championship team. Played right guard for 3 seasons, allowed 3 sacks, 5 hurries, but he didn't allow any sacks and he didn't allow any hurries in 2023. Like, this is a all-American type of player. This is a team leader. This is somebody that you try to build a team around. Yeah, he suffered a horrible injury. I get it. And I don't think he's going to be as dominant in the NFL as what he was in college football. But if you were to go back to the offensive line, where it'd be Colt Miller at left tackle, Dylan Parham at left guard, then you have Cedric Van Pran at center. Then instead of Greg Van Roten, just for this year, you replace that in 2025 with somebody like Zach Zinter and then Talisi Fuaga at right tackle. Like, That's your offensive line for a long time. And the more chemistry that you can have at the offensive line is something that I do really, really want to try to do, especially with a non-mobile quarterback like Kirk Cousins, who at this point in 2025 would be on the final year of his deal. And then I would want to start to create that path going forward of who's going to take over for Captain Kirk. Let's go to round 6 here at pick 210, and it is Pritchett at cornerback from Auburn. And I can't remember how to pronounce his last name, and I'm kind of mad. Nehemiah, that's it. Nehemiah Pritchett, cornerback from Auburn, 6'1", 184 pounds. And the tape, when you watch him, some of the tape is very, very good. Like, he's a physical corner. He's a versatile corner. And at this point in the draft, I like to look for versatility. I like to look at a guy that can play some man. I want to find a guy that can play a little bit of zone. He's skinny, and that's going to be the biggest knock on him in the NFL is he's too skinny. But if you put him in the right weightlifting program, like, the reason why I'm intrigued by this is because the Raiders' new cornerback coach last season worked with Sauce Gardner. The build is actually very similar in terms of long, lanky, skinny. Sauce is a much better athlete than Pritchett. However, when Pritchett's at his best, and if he's able to put on a few pounds, this could be a very, very sneaky player. So Pritchett projects as a starting outside cornerback who can kick inside of the slot if needed. His combination of long speed, burst, and foot quickness allows him to operate in both man and zone schemes. That's from the Draft Network. Let's go to the next pick here in round 7 at 221. Omar Speights, linebacker from LSU. And I know that Craig is the Raiders' offensive line coach. But to me, in round 7, I'm going to bet on guys that have special teams ability. I'm also going to bet on guys that have coaching connections. And yes, Craig used to coach for LSU. I get it. However, though, if maybe you've seen this player play, right, up close and personal on a few practices, does that give you the ability then to go out and get him? I also understand that Craig has been with the 49ers the past 2 seasons. But Omar Speights, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I'm from the Philly area. You got to be a different type of dude to be from Philly. 69 tackles, 0 sacks, 0 forced fumbles. He also fits really well, though, with the athletic build that our brand new linebacker coach Caldwell ends up looking for. PFN had this to say. Omar Speights logged over 300 total tackles in his career at Oregon State before transferring to LSU. He's been underrated across the entire span, and he's one of the 2024 NFL Draft's biggest sleepers. Speights is a rocked-up second-level defender with impressive mass. That mass amounts a great play strength, both as a block destructor and a tackler. Both Speights also brings quality, burst, range, and short-range area agility as a coverage defender, and he's very instinctive when managing the middle of the field. Antonio Pierce, to me, is going to be a sucker for Speights. And I mean that in the most respectful way possible, because when you watch Speights play, you can see that he might not be the best athlete. Like, I know what that just said, and he might not be the best athlete, but he's just always around the football. And sometimes I'm a sucker for somebody that's just always around the football. Why? Because it's instinct, and you can't really put pen to paper to it. Like, he might not run a 4.6 40 as a linebacker. He might not have all these intangibles, but he's a football player, and that's somebody that I'm going to bet on in round 7. And then let's go to my other round 7 pick here. We got one more after this. Brennan Jackson, edge from Washington State. And unfortunately, I had this pick in mind because the Raiders, they don't necessarily need an edge, but this is my Janarius Robinson replacement. And unfortunately, Janarius Robinson had a DUI this offseason. I don't really see him sticking around. Robinson's like 6'5", 260 pounds. Jackson, he's got the exact same build, but the difference is he was a team captain from Washington State. And I know the Raiders counted on having Janarius Robinson, so for that reason, could you find maybe another dude who's going to be bottom of your roster, 7th rounder, you don't have to pay a lot, basically the exact same amount of money, that does have some success playing at a high level. Brennan Jackson has the ideal size for an NFL edge defender. He's produced well, totaling 22.5 tackles for loss and 12 sacks over the course of 30 career games. Despite this, he's more of a multiple athlete than someone who is a reliable performer. Then, round 7, my final pick here in my mock draft with Kirk Cousins. I'm going to take tight end Trey Knox at 227. So, For those that don't know, Knox was a receiver at one point, and when the NFL Combine happens, I'm telling y'all right now, Knox might be the fastest tight end at the Combine. Like, I anticipate that he runs probably somewhere around a 4.5. He might get in that 4.4 40 range, and he's not a great route runner. Like, he's not a great blocker, but you already have Michael Mayer. Like, Michael Mayer is your main tight end. Austin Hooper's a free agent. Cole Fotheringham's a free agent. Or not Cole Fotheringham. The other names escape me right now. The only other tight end on your roster is Zach Gentry, right? So knowing that, Jesper Horsted's the free agent. You add Trey Knox, who you just want to bring in once in a while. And one of the things that Antonio Pierce spoke about when he was talking about this Raiders offense was adding more speed and having more of a vertical passing attack. If Knox is on the field for 5 to 10 snaps a game, but you have that 2 tight end set and you have your third string tight end, second string tight end that has that ability to run that seam route and can run a 4.4 40, that has that experience being a wide receiver. Like, when I watch Knox play, he gives me like bad, what's his name? Ingram. Evan Ingram vibes. Yeah, tight end from Jacksonville who got drafted by the Giants. He gives me Evan Ingram vibes, where Ingram was a hell of an athlete. It's going to be a little bit of a process. But again, in round 7, the athlete that he is, the straight line speed that he has, I can make that work on this Raiders team. So one more time here is my Raiders mock draft with Kirk Cousins as the quarterback. In round 1, I'm going to go Talisi Fuaga, the offensive tackle, right tackle from Oregon State. Byron Murphy, DT. Cedric Van Pran at center. Marshawn Lloyd, who's starting to slowly turn into the running back that I love, at pick 113. Zach Zinter at right guard. Won't be able to play this year, but will be the future right guard for the Raiders. Then Nehemiah Pritchett, cornerback from Auburn. Omar Spites, Brennan Jackson, and to round it out, Trey Knox. If you want, please rate my mock draft with Cousins. Scale it from 0 to 100. 0 being you absolutely hated it. 100, you absolutely loved it.